would like to appreciate and recognize the labor of Elizabeth Sarajido doing this. I think it's the right way of putting together, back together the Cuban culture throughout language, to creating language and creating communication in between the artists in this case and the people involved in promoting and promoting this art and this culture. I will talk about my experience as an artist that I developed my early career in Havana on the late 80s, and at that time the environment in the city it was definitely very vibrant environment for the culture, and there was a very important aspect that promote all of this what was called the Renaissance of Cuban art. It was that at that time the market didn't exist. Only to have an American dollar in your pocket can bring you to jail. So there was no market at all. We basically was working just for love, like the expression. We were making art just for love. And that gave us a very privileged environment for the artists who develop our careers or we have the opportunity to do art at that moment. And I would like to depart from this very controversial issue that is the politics and the Cuban government and the Cuban institutions. I think we have a privileged environment. I would like to repeat that. During that time, but the time passed and all the different periods in Cuban politics also affected the art and the art world in Cuba. Many of us left and leave the country for different reasons, and that created like a vacuum in the country, and we left this vacuum, this empty space, and then the powerful community of art of Cuban artists, of course, replaced that empty space that we left in the country, and continue renovating this culture. But we were automatically erased from the Cuban culture until basically today. We came to, in my case, I'm feeling like I'm talking like a official Cuban person, because I'm talking in plural. I need to talk in personal. I left and I started developing my career from zero in Miami. In this case, in Miami, where nobody knew me in Miami at the time I arrived here. I start here, and I start becoming a part of the new generation, and the people that was a lot younger than me. I was exhibiting with all of these people that was not necessarily Cubans, people that belong to the community and people that came from all over the world, American people, of course. And then I developed my work here, but my work has been ignored in Cuba, absolutely, since I left. Has been ignored by the institution, but it has been ignored also by curators. And it's not because they don't want to, it's because the information didn't reach the curator, didn't reach the people that live inside the island. And also, many of us know how complicated this situation in Cuba. When you live in Cuba, you need to step, every step you do, gotta be very careful. because many people are looking for you, and you can be, if you support a fellow artist, for example, you could get in trouble. So, you know, it's like here that also happened. But beside that situation now, I go back to Havana, and I found so many of the situation that I left in Cuba during the late 80s. I think that I found some of these situations that remain the same. Of course, we all know we just need to read the Washington Post or the New York Times to know all the situation in Cuba. There is nothing else to add to that. But in the terms of the culture, of the Cuban culture and our interaction as artists, for me, I'm discovering a new country. I discovered a new country where I found people that are compromised with the culture, and people that are compromised with the establishment, with the government, and with the politics of the government. And it's very interesting to me to go back to the country. I'm developing a different body of work in Havana now. I'm continuing the period of work that I left interrupted by immigration, and I continue. I went back to painting, and I also developing work that I've been developing in Miami. I think in Cuba there are so many things that needs to be changed in terms of the culture and in terms of the politics as well. But there are so many things that we don't need to change, that too many things that are working properly. And that's the thing that I think we should maintain as an artist, and we should work in this type of communication that we have in here. Is something that we lost in the Cuban culture. When I arrived to Miami, I discovered so many artists like Luis Cruz Azaceta that it was forbidden in the country. And an artist like this, such a huge artist that is so important for the Cuban culture, you don't have any information in Havana. And then I meet artists like Emilio Perez, like belong to the Cuban culture in this country. I mean, he represents the Cuban culture in this country, in this city. And then I get involved in this new context, and that's what is interesting today, to go back to Cuba and discover so many Cuban artists, young Cuban artists, and rediscover some of the artists that I know from my previous experience, like Sandra Ramos or Arrechea, for example, that I know them just like one more than the other, but now I have the opportunity just to share spaces and to get more informed and update my information about the work. I think it's an amazing context what is happening in Cuba. Everybody is so attracted to. I mean, I'm talking everybody. The people who visit Cuba people are very attracted to Cuba, to the country. But most of the people needs to learn more about the people, especially the people that go attracted by the culture, by the art. They need to learn, they need to investigate more. I encourage everybody that go to Cuba to investigate and to open to the Cuban culture, not to the Cuban geographically determined by the geography or by the officiality or by the connections that you have with the government. The Cuban culture is wider than that, and that has been my experience that I'm discovering right now inside Cuba. The Cuban culture, today a lot of Cubans are looking out the island, not looking inside the island. So many people are craving for experience with foreign people, to people that brings different experiences and has different dialogues. And I think it's very important. It's very curious how so many of the people that are interested in Cuban art, they go to Havana and they visit so many studios of Cuban artists that live in Havana, and they spend all the attention, all the time, and all the resources necessary, and they don't even bother to visit the studios of the Cuban artists outside Cuba, even in Miami, in New York, in the United States. This is something that is something that is very interesting to me. How in so many institutions, so many personal entities that now today they go to my studio, they're looking to visit my studio in Havana, and they live in the United States, they live in my city in Havana. They want to see me in Havana, they don't want to see me here. I don't know why. My studio in Havana is little, and it's the half of the house of my mother. It's not my studio, it's not my property, but people want to go there, and I already have like buses with 20 people visiting my studio, and I have to look exactly which people is coming, because sometimes I'm wasting my time, because they are tourists now. They take pictures and they ask me for catalogs, and I give away my catalogs for the people that I would really care about my work. So it's very interesting, and that is something that tells you that it's not about the culture, it's not about the art, it's not about the quality, it's not about ideas, it's about something that you need to take from this place, something similar that kind of people are looking for, kind of a trophy or some kind of I don't know, like a postcard. So now I'm producing some works that are dealing with this situation. I'm portraying some of the Cuban society phenomena today, the new values in Cuba, in Cuban art and in Cuban culture and in the Cuban society. I'm playing with that, and also the fact that I'm going back to Cuba after 20 years and I opened my studio there. Is also kind of my attitude is kind of a performance in a way to just to move the carpet, you move the carpet. It's like this thing right now here. Who is living where, in which country? Sandra, Glexis, Arachea, who is Cuban? Emilio is Cuban, Sandra is more Cuban than I. We don't know, but we don't really know, but we belong to the same culture, and I think that that's what we need to keep in mind when we look at Cuban art. It is not, because it happened to me. I discovered the Cuban art here, so many exile artists that I have been dying in this city with an amazing work, with such an amazing career and such a, they never left their culture behind, and that those artists die under-recognized, they die poor, and they die without any attention, and they, it's something that is sad, it's not dramatic, but it's not to use this dramatism, but it's something real. It's what I wanted to mention. So my plans for the future, I'm continuing being an artist based in Miami. I have so many plans in Cuba to continue working, exhibiting, doing projects. So it's the natural way, it's the way it should be. It's my country, and I think it's great what is happening in Cuba. I think it's the moment to let the flow of the process. I'm very proud of my my fellow Cubans, citizens, the Cubans in Cuba and the Cubans in Miami, the government people and the people from the street. I'm very proud of everybody, because everything is happening without violence. Everything is happening very smooth. I think the Cubans, we have this kind of intuition to go with the flow and to do things in the right way. Maybe it's the practice that we we've been forced during these more than 5 decades to do things on the right way, you know, just resolviendo and doing the things under one way or the other, but just to make things happen.